The plant spirits had also a lot to do with me ending up in the Amazon jungle, because over there they work a lot with sacred plants. And when we talk about the other side of fear, I'm not going to lie, it's the last thing I wanted to do. The further exploration of them really terrified me. And then I just started to talk to the tree. And I just asked the tree, like, what's next for me? Like, where is this going? And it said to me, you got to go to the Amazon rainforest. This tree just told me this, and I really feel it, and I don't understand it, but I feel it. But like, let's just take some time before you make a life-altering decision to buy a one-way ticket to another country. And that is when I met my now husband, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening. It's really happening. It's really fucking happening. I'm like, this is wild. Like, you literally cannot make this up. So that's how it started.
All right. So last time we spoke, we were talking about just your whole journey, right? We spoke about the cancer. We spoke about everything that you've been through. But I really wanted you to highlight, you being an authenticity coach right now, and the journey that you took to get here, what that was like for you. Like, how did it come about? I know definitely it came out of the story that you shared with me. So I'd love for you to touch on that today. And yeah.
Awesome. Do you want me to start now, or are you just preparing?
No, you can go ahead.
All right, sweet. So, my journey to becoming an authenticity coach, it was a very magical and intuitive journey. It started with me making the decision to leave what was making me unhappy, and just not feeling aligned with my gifts or my path, which was at the time I was in a PhD program studying education policy at Harvard. And although I was knee deep into the program, I was pretty far in. PhD's a long road. I would say I was 2/3 of the way done. I had finished all my coursework, a lot of research, and all my exams. So I just had the dissertation left.
Wow.
And yeah, after some serious thought, the way I knew that I wasn't supposed to continue was I had created a research paper, an original research paper, about how teachers of color navigate working in schools and school policies to best serve their students. And I was supposed to work from that paper to continue. And I actually couldn't even bring myself to open the paper. I couldn't even bring myself to read what I had done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I knew that something had shifted with the journey of the cancer. And if I couldn't open it, there's no way I was going to find the energy to complete it. And at the time, I didn't have any energy to play with. I think we've all been there in our lives at a certain point where you kind of are on an energy budget, and you have to prioritize what brings you energy and what makes you feel excited or nourished in life. And at the time, I had just noticed that this wasn't it. So despite all of the work that I did and all of the work that I did to even get there, which it was a dream of mine to go to Harvard when I was younger, and I did. I ended up graduating with my master's in education policy. And I told my advisors, as much as I love some of the things that I've been able to do here, this is not the right path for me right now. And I don't know why, but it's just not. And they really respected my decision. And they said they'll support me in whatever else I decide to do. And so I feel like I had also a lot of grace in that space. From people that it mattered to me what feedback they gave me. And actually, one of my advisors ended up sending her daughter to me when I started coaching. And I coached her daughter. She's 8 years old at the time. But it just goes to show you, like, the reason why did I start coaching? I mean, I just was sitting with, I wasn't in the program, and I had the space to decide, what do I want to do next? And when I was in the program, I was living in Boston. But after my cancer treatment, I said, I don't know if we're allowed to curse on this podcast. Probably
Yeah, go
not.
ahead.
Oh, okay. I said, fuck it. I said, fuck it. I gotta go move out to a sunny place that I've always dreamed of living in. I love surfing. I had picked it up during my time, actually during my cancer treatment.
Hmm.
And I'm such a water girl. I love the ocean, and I always dreamed of living out in California, which is where I went to college, but I never went back, and I always wanted to.
Yeah.
And so I moved out to San Diego, and everyone thought I was nuts because I was not in great physical shape. I had just done 8 months of chemo, and people were just like, "What are you like? What are you doing?" But I didn't care. That was one of the first intuitive decisions I made. I moved out there, left the program, and then I had the spaciousness to feel into what is it I want to do. And
Yeah.
I had always, always been great at coaching people. And I had 5 years of experience in education and teaching at the time. And even more, if I really think about it, I was an RA in undergrad, and I just have always been teaching and counseling and coaching in one capacity or another. Even when I
Yeah.
was like 8 years old or 7 years old, like,
Wow.
so I just had known that that was a gift of mine, and my friends and my community had always reflected that back to me. And I had always been finding ways to do that in my jobs, wherever I was, whatever I was doing.
Hmm.
And so, and even in the program, as a teacher, I was teaching courses, assisting in courses, running, facilitating groups, and just doing a lot of teaching and coaching. And so I knew I had the skill set to do it. And I knew I had the intuition as well, because as coaches, it's not just structured, a structured plan that makes you effective,
Hmm.
but also just being able to connect with people and really trust our own intuition about where to go in a certain session or how to show up. And so, yeah, I just had a come to Jesus, like a come to Jesus moment. I always say I'm a woman. I bleed every month, and on my bleeds, I really get a lot of information and
Hmm.
about what directions I'm supposed to go, a lot of premonitions and things like that. And I had a bleed in San Diego, and it was clear as day. It's like, you're going to
Yeah.
become a life coach. You're starting this now. So
Amazing.
that's how I started. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that for you. Talking about your menstruation and how that's kind of like shows up for you when it comes to your intuition, speaking about being an intuitive healer, how does that now play a role in the work that you're doing?
It's amazing that we're even talking about it. And I really would just like to acknowledge that, it's taken me a lot of work to get here where I can speak about the bleed, and also publicly, like without any shame, but really as a celebration
Hmm.
of the power that it holds and how much magic there is in that space. And I would say today it's very similar. I just have more awareness over that time of my month of what what it means and how much can happen and move energetically during that time. And I'll say that um, for a couple years, I have been coaching since I found in my coaching business, but the way that I've coached and where I've lived has changed.
Hmm.
And so for part of that time since then till now, I was living in the Amazon rainforest. And
Mm.
I was living with different indigenous communities too, different ones. And the longer I stayed there, um, the more I learned about this time of the bleed, and how to honor it, and the power that ancient societies understand that it holds. In fact, they say it's even more powerful than some of the most powerful plant medicines and sacred plants,
Mm.
that they give people to create this connection with God
Yeah.
or the universe. They say it's actually more powerful than these plants. Women have it,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of ways to manage our energy and just protect our energy during that time. And the way I see it, it's different for all of us. We're all unique individuals, but it was nice to go there and understand that the reason that they had some of these boundaries around the woman's bleed is not because they disrespected the woman, but because they understood the power that she holds, especially during this time.
Mm.
And it is a time of purge, of release. So I always like to remember that and honor that too. So sometimes the purge can make space for like new information to come in.
Mhm.
And so I experience that too. And I also pay attention to my dreams even more during this time. And I'll just say, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but I'll just have like random, like aha moments. Like I'll just be sitting around, like, and then just be like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm going to do a retreat, or oh my gosh, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's just cool. So I did write a poem about the bleed if you ever want to hear it. I actually
Oh,
have my book right
yeah.
here, which was not even planned, but
I love
yeah.
it. Do you wanna share it with us?
Yeah, sure.
Do, please do.
Okay. I know you're a writer as well, so this is definitely meant to be.
I
I'm
love
sure your
it.
audience, you have a lot of artistic people.
Oh, yeah,
Let's see if I
yeah.
can find it. Oh, here it is. Okay. Ready?
Yes.
All right. Creatrix Codes. Our flow is advanced magic. This ain't no beginner's dance. Wild love sorcery, creating life, death, transmuting collective agony, beauty, power, wisdom, compassion. We are the feminine force. Whispering winds, uprooting lava, sounding thunder, making waves. This is us. Feeling is healing. Feeling is queening. Honor the bleed, remembering the gifts of our ancients, dripping down lineage, the divine feminine creatrix codes, the sacred way, the only way. Breathe, rest, protect, the sacred passageway, the original creatrix matrix. This is our medicine.
That's beautiful. The creatrix matrix.
Matrix.
I love it. I love it. That is so good, Pooja. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Have you
Thank
like
you.
published that anywhere?
Well, it's in this book right here.
Nice. Yes,
Yes.
that's your
This is it.
book.
This is it.
Amazing. Is it just
um
for your book? Is it just like pure poetry or
yes, it's a poetry collection.
nice? I love it.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, and I'm sure you'll tell us where we'll find your book later on.
Sure. Sure, I can do it now too, so we
You
don't
can do it
forget.
now
You
too,
can just
of
find it on
course.
Amazon, simple as that.
Yes.
You can also go on my website, and I have a link there too, poojabakhai.com.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, this is the perfect opportunity to plug. So I love that actually. Oh man, but tell me, because you were in the Amazon rainforest. How did you even end up there?
Oh
Like,
my god.
what happened?
It's such a good question. It's such a crazy story. I love that you asked me because the mystical part of me definitely sees life as like the series of magical moments. I had
Mhm.
never watched like Alice in Wonderland before. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I
Have you seen
love
it?
it. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. The book, the movie, everything.
Well, it came into my field, or like I was introduced to it more. Like my husband loves it. He always like is quoting it and showing me like these YouTube clips from it, but
Mhm.
I watched it in full for the first time like this past week. And I was just like, "Oh my gosh." All morning today I was like, "I think I'm Alice. I think I'm Alice."
Yeah. I
I
think
mean, I
there's an
think
Alice in a lot of us, right?
exactly.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Is like we are all Alice, right? And that's
Yeah.
probably why that movie was such a hit. I don't know why, but probably everyone feels connected in one way or another to that sense of magic, or is
Mhm.
able to like remember it when they see the movie.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot today, and just being really grateful about the moments that brought me, the magical moments, the series of magical moments that brought me to the jungle, because it was nothing short of a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing short of a miracle. But yeah, so with my cancer journey, it brought up a lot of questions for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly how, like, what I was curious because I had a Western medicine background. I actually studied biology and like was a scientist in college and had planned to go to medical school, but like felt didn't it's not in alignment for me once I actually had to make the decision.
Yeah.
And so there was a science part of me that knew and understood a lot of things. Actually, I had done cancer research before. I had studied cancer cells. Both my parents were doctors. I had read a lot of their medical books about cancer even as a child.
Mm.
So I knew a lot about the science behind cancer and what was going on scientifically in my body, but I also had this sense that there was more to the story, that there was
Mm-hmm.
just something deeper going on, and that if everything is just energy, then there was some energy within me that was creating this physical reality.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of prayers that I spoke into the winds about finding healing and finding truth.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it's probably that those prayers and that choice that I made that I wanted to know. I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to understand what really happened to me at that time because it
Yeah.
wasn't just my body that changed or the decision of quitting my program and starting my life coaching business. It wasn't just that. There was something much bigger going on that I could sense, but I couldn't put my finger on it for the life
Mm-hmm.
of me. A part of me like thought I was going a little crazy because I'm just like, nothing feels the same.
Yeah.
Nothing. Um, so I went out to San Diego and I think probably that was an intuitive decision. But basically, once I went there, I started meeting people one after the next that would sort of lead me to these different healing modalities. And it was so interesting because I had never really experienced a lot of these like healing modalities before, or a way of looking, a spiritual lens on the world, an emotional lens. And one of those series one of those parts in the long chain
Mm.
led me to this woman who was serving um sacred blessed teas in a ceremonial context. And
Mm.
yes. And I thought to myself, I was looking for, in the San Diego area, there are a lot of like more European, like, lineage practitioners. And I had that at the time was looking for a woman of color to
Mm-hmm.
just learn with and learn from. And everything I was learning, I was also using in my coaching practice. So it was sort of a part of my training as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that at the time, but I learned that over time. And so, yeah, I found this ceremony, this woman, someone recommended me to go to her. And I agreed. And I learned very quickly that the blessed tea also had some psychedelic plants inside.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so she was like, do you still want to do it? Not because I didn't know that when I signed up. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, how do you feel about it? And I said, I feel fine. I said, I trusted everything that brought me to this point. I've really relied solely on trust for the last year, trusting the guidance.
Mm-hmm.
And since I'm here and I feel called to sit in this experience, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And I only bring that up because I think the plant spirits had also a lot to do with me ending up in the Amazon jungle, because over there they work a lot with sacred plants.
Mm.
And so I brought that up because, yeah, after I started working with the plants, a lot of things started to change in my life a lot faster. I
Mm-hmm.
started feeling better physically very quickly. I started becoming more and more sensitive and intuitive. I started understanding more, like how to manage my sensitivities and
Mm-hmm.
also how to trust and hear the different messages and guidances.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, very soon after that, I got like a guidance to go to Mexico. Like I kept having visions of these jungles. I had no idea about the Amazon rainforest at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But a friend of mine actually was like, "Oh, you should just come and stay at our place in Mexico for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. I mean, why stop now, right?
Yeah.
Why
I
stop
love
now?
it. I love
So,
it.
and I was craving that sort of like exploration and adventure at that time in my life too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was finally physically able to do it. Whereas before I was very physically restricted, recovering. I was finally like feeling up for it. And so I ended up going to Mexico, and so much magic happened there. I was living in a small town on the West Coast
Mm-hmm.
called Sayulita. It's probably a lot more people have heard of it now. It's not an unpopular place to go. It's a beach town, also great
Mm-hmm.
surf, but amazing culture, really kind people, and a lot of different kinds of people kind of find their way there for different reasons.
Yeah.
And so I got to live in their amazing space in the jungle, which was nice. And I continued doing my coaching work. And I wanted to continue, honestly, exploring my relationship with these plants because they had already helped me heal so much.
Yeah.
And I knew there was more. And when we talk about the other side of fear, I'm not going to lie, it's the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
My friends were like, when I got there, I think I saw them for like one day before they headed out, and we had a conversation, and they looked at me and they said, well, what do you think you're going to like focus on, or what's calling you right now? And
Mm.
I spent the entire time talking about how I had worked with these plant medicines and they had really like opened up a lot for me, but also the further exploration of them really terrified me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just talked about how scared I was
Yeah.
of following that path even longer. And
Yeah.
they said, well, it sounds like you need to follow your fear and you need to ask
Mm.
yourself, why are you so scared of this thing? And go for it. And I was like, oh God, here we go. Um, but yeah, so in Mexico, I had the opportunity a few times to explore a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
and what it had amazing results for me, which I'm happy to share later on if it comes up. And then yes, the way I like to share this story, because it is 100% true and so crazy, is one day I woke up and I would often take these walks along the beach, and I walked, and there's a little jungle path that you can go through to get to a more secluded beach.
Mm-hmm.
So I was walking like along this jungle path, and it's so beautiful and mystical. Even in there, there's just some really giant trees and a lot of green, and it's quiet. And so just walking along, and there's an opening, and that's where you can sit by the water. And there was a tree by the water, and I was sitting by the tree and like reading this book. And I think the book was actually like about synchronicities. Now that remember, it was like one of Deepak Chopra's books. I think it was either
Oh.
that or like a book with quotes in it that were like about life. I can't remember which one of those books it was, but it was one of those two. I know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading it, and then I just started to talk to the tree, like in my head. I wasn't talking out loud. I was talking in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just asked the tree, like, what's next for me? Like, where is this going? And it said to me, you got to go to the Amazon rainforest. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when like this conversation stopped being like a conversation in the head. Like I just started
Yeah.
bawling my eyes out. I was
Yeah.
crying. Like I was huddled over myself in the sand, like crying
Oh
my
my
eyes out. And I
God.
remember I had my phone on me, and I sent a text message to one of my friends like live. Like I love those voice notes. So I sent like a voice note, and I was just like crying, and I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but this is the kind of friend I could tell these things to. I said, this tree just told me this, and I really feel it, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it, but I feel it. And then I
Yeah.
told another couple friends the next day, and then within the next day, somebody had invited me to Ecuador, and
Mm-hmm.
to their place. They had some land there, and they knew some people who worked in the jungle with some indigenous communities.
Mm.
And so, yeah, it's just okay, great. It said like there's connection issues for a second. So yeah, in just like 2 days, there was a clear path
Mm-hmm.
for exploring how to get there. I knew this wasn't going to be something like I looked on Google and found like found
Yeah.
like a viaje, a trip, and was just like, oh yeah, let me go on this tour. Like it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then after I had that conversation, I went back to the States, to San Diego. I gathered my self and my things, and I felt into it for a couple weeks. Anytime I get like a big decision like that, I like to just take a moment, be like, okay, like let's just take some time before you make a life altering decision to buy a one-way ticket to another country.
Yeah. Yeah.
um and so then I just like shared it with some people. They said, oh, that sounds great, you'll be fine, you speak some Spanish, you'll be fine. So I went, and I went alone, and I spent a couple weeks in the capital city where I landed, just to get my bearings and adjust to the land and just the people, everything. It's a big adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then a couple weeks later, I was on the land of my friends, and we had one ceremony there, a fire like ceremony, and like a temazcal ceremony. And that ceremony is when I met my now husband. And
Wow.
also when I came out of that
Amazing.
temazcal, the guy who was running it like said to me, hey, we're going to the jungle next week, you want to come? And I was like, oh my god, it's happening. It's really happening. It's really fucking happening. I'm like, this is wild. Like you literally
Yeah.
cannot make this up.
I
Um
know.
so that's how it started. That's how it started.
That's amazing. What a journey.
Crazy.
Oh my goodness. That's what you call trust and faith.
Thank you. I
Oh my
agree.
God.
I know.
So, thinking about all of that, because literally you allowed yourself to just be led, like through the whole thing. So, with all of the fears and all of the uncertainties, like, what is your relationship with fear right now?
Honestly, fear right now is like a motivator for me.
That's good.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you feel scared about this? Okay, let's do it.
Oh my gosh, that
It's
is really
basically like
good.
that.
I
Yeah.
love
I mean,
that.
and it doesn't have to be like an immediate thing, but
Hmm.
it's like, oh, you're afraid to become a mom. Let's like make a baby tonight. It's not always like that quick, but
Yeah.
that's my mindset. That's my mindset. It's like fear is pointing you in the right direction. It's a friend, and it's just like, let's walk together. Let's go for a
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know?
love that. I love that. That's a good perception shift, you know, because like going through the cancer, walking away from your PhD program, ending up in the Amazon, like meeting your husband, girl.
I know. I know.
Oh my goodness, talking to the tree.
I don't think the tree knew
I
at the
love
time,
it.
like, the tree's about to get famous. Like, people are about to hear about this tree. I hope the tree's still there.
The tree. I'm pretty sure the tree is still there. One thing about trees is that they tend to outlast mankind.
True.
So I'm pretty sure
True.
it's still there.
I really hope
Um,
so.
yeah, yeah, that is amazing. During your process of working with plants, do you want to talk about any specific plant medicine that you've worked with, or maybe any other beings that you've communicated with during the process and how that was like for you?
Wow. Well, thanks for being willing to even talk about this realm. I know it's something that's becoming more and more mainstream, and at least in the US and some other countries. And I also think, I will say before I even talk about it, is like one message I always like to remember for myself that I've learned through my own experiences working with plant medicine with different communities and different types of facilitators, is just to always use your discernment and always be open to learning what the plants themselves can show you and teach you, and trusting yourself and your relationship to that plant and building that relationship just like you would, like we're saying, any friend or any energy, even the energy of fear.
Yeah.
Because I can say definitely every time that I worked with it, it was definitely in alignment. But as I've gotten more experience, I've definitely become more careful about what spaces I will, ceremonial spaces that I will work with these plants. And yeah, but there also is this always this element of like trust and faith, and knowing that, for me, the nature spirit itself, this spirit of nature, the spirit of the earth, it is a pure spirit. It's like a loving spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the plants themselves, I think for me, I always felt something very curious. I was always very curious about what they had to share,
Yeah.
because we're humans. And
Yeah.
even though we have some similarities with plants, we have a different consciousness than plants.
Yeah.
And so I always wondered, they've been here, like you said, much longer than us. And
Mm-hmm.
so what is their perspective or their teachings on what can help us be in that vibration of love, mostly in balance and harmony that, um, nature and the earth has with itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, just trusting that vibration, and those teachings help me a lot, because yeah, that's all I'll say about that. And in terms of like which plants, um, I I think I'll just keep that up for another time, maybe, or, um, more generally speaking, I'll say they're basically plants that, um, different communities have used culturally,
Yeah.
um, as sacred plants, because they've developed a relationship with this plant over centuries.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they've preserved that culture. And I'll say for my culture in India, I believe that we also have used like more hallucinogenic or psychedelic plants a long time ago.
Yeah.
And maybe they still are in certain areas, but it's not talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But we use a lot of plants like herbs and Ayurvedic plants and medicines like that, um, that we use for healing and curing different, ailments and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and balance and introspection and everything. And
Yeah.
so, I think like one common plant that I will say, um, between India and the communities that I was, learning with in the Amazon, is tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's not something people normally think of as a medicine, because
Yeah.
in our society now, it's been really, our relationship with plants in general has really changed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, tobacco is one of, they say, the original plants, like the grandfather plant. And it was interesting to me how we have that history of respecting in ancient times. Now it's these plants can be abused or not used in a way that will bring people healing necessarily. I don't know if,
Mm-hmm.
if that's the case. Maybe they still are bringing healing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
We just can't see it.
I guess it's the
Um,
intention behind the
yeah,
use, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I love that too. Yeah, that's really big. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I would just say they're just plants that have been used in prayer or in ceremony, or, um, and I think another cool thing that I'll also share about the plants is something like I knew about like eating some of these plants. I knew
Mm-hmm.
about praying with them without consuming them, just holding them or praying with them, offerings, um, things like that. But I had never really learned how to use them in plant baths
Mm-hmm.
or, anything like that. Like, in terms of a, like, yeah, just like a bath.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
over there we did a lot of that as well. So it's not just working with them in ceremonies, but also day to day, or week to week, working them in plant baths. And it's the same thing, like you said, like the intention. And
Yep.
and I also think that, the more and more I work with these plants, and maybe others have this experience too, it feels more and more like a remembrance. Like we actually we already know, a part of us maybe already knows how to communicate with these plants,
Mm-hmm.
and a part of us, like let's say we're on our moon or something, and we're feeling like a little like out of balance, or maybe tired or cranky or something,
Mm.
or have cramps. I wonder what would happen if we just asked ourselves or spirit or something, and like, what plants should I want to make a tea or something, or take a plant bath. What plants should I use? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious, like, what plants would come to you or to
Yeah.
me, because I think sometimes we already know, like, what our bodies like need, or what our spirits need. And so that's also another nice thing about it, is like it doesn't have to just be certain kinds of plants. Like everything has its like place. Everything has its
Yeah.
place and its purpose. And I always like to imagine the earth. Um, like I always like to imagine that it has given everything that we need for our healing. So everything
Mm-hmm.
we need for our healing is already here on the earth with us.
Yeah. And I love that you just mentioned that because currently as we're speaking, I'm actually bleeding.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I actually did something of the sort, like, okay, I'm feeling this discomfort. What can I use? Like, what will be best for me right now? And
Wow.
I've been using turmeric for the past few days,
Wow.
right? Yeah. So, and it's been so good. Like, everything has been calm, nice since then. I've been cool. So it's funny that you just mentioned that. I'm just like,
Wow.
yeah, that was just me a couple days ago. And I'm just like,
Wow.
I'm feeling some type of way. Like, what can I use? And it's just like turmeric, some ginger. Like, it was good. Like, it
Wow.
was it was really, really good. So very helpful. And yeah, plant bats. I love that you mentioned that. Like, plant bats are the real deal. Like, they're so good. And they're so helpful for all sorts of things. For real. Yeah. Cleansing, or um, you know, after giving birth, like, there's just so many ways
Wow.
they can use it, or just like for general like relaxation. Like, there's so many purposes, so many ways that you could use plant bats. So that's really cool. I love to know though, like, you having worked with plants for some time, having worked with different plants, what would you say that you have learned so far? What were one of the biggest lessons that you've learned from working with plants, whether it be something about yourself or something about your journey or
Hmm.
life, whatever it may be? What stands out to you that you've
Hmm.
learned so far?
Great question. Um, and offline, I would love to talk about, to hear how you use the plant baths, because it's been like a transition, uh, going from a plate like in the jungle where you can collect the plants outside, cook them over a fire in water, and then go to the river and bathe with them,
Mm-hmm.
versus here. And so I would love to hear it too, just to also continue sharing with people and practicing those things,
Mm-hmm.
here. So to
Yeah,
answer your question,
definitely.
okay, thank you. To answer your question, about takeaways, one of the biggest things that I will circle back to, this idea of remembrance that I said, like we're like remembering something, or maybe there's something we already know. Um, so working with a plant medicine, first of all, really helped me to remember some things that I knew but I had suppressed
Mm-hmm.
about my own childhood trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And while these memories actually didn't surface in the ceremonies themselves, I think the plants knew that if they surface in the ceremonies for whatever reason, I might not trust it fully. Um, So the memories actually came back to me outside of ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
But I really believe it was the plants that helped open me up, and that energy of facing my fears and the energy of connecting with and trusting the process
Yeah.
and breathing and
Yeah.
learning how to. It was like ceremony would give me the tools to face these things in my life.
Yeah.
Um, like learning how to manage myself emotionally when you're feeling in your body so charged up on working with the plant medicine, because so many different hormones in your body are like being released, and it's described as like being near death, and it can be so intense.
Yeah.
But when you learn, for me, learning when I learn how to manage myself in those spaces, it gave me a lot of confidence unknowingly, like unconsciously, out in real life to go through intense things
Mm-hmm.
and make my way through them with grace, basically, and without like disrupting everything around me and burning it all down, or having some sort of like crazy, like, not doesn't mean you don't have a panic attack or you don't feel sad or nothing like that, but I mean like really, while being able to still walk my path, while still being able to live my life, and um yeah, and just be me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just, and that reminds me of Alice in Wonderland, because she like went through that whole ceremony and came out of it with like the confidence to like sing her
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
So it's like that. It gave me the confidence and the trust in myself and the belief in myself uh to sing my song, you know?
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's really beautiful, Pooja. And it's true. Like sometimes the insight that we gain from plant medicine happens after the fact. I think I went through the same thing recently with cacao.
Hmm.
And I went in with the tension of seeking clarity. And um, ceremony was lovely, was so nice. And then um, after that, I think, by the first week, going into the second week after that, so much information started coming to me, right? And, just like how we were saying earlier, like when you're just sitting there and things just occur to you, and I'm just like, like all this information suddenly comes to
Hmm.
you, and you're like, wow, right? It was mind blowing. And I think what it taught me is the importance of trusting my intuition, the importance of like just honoring that connection, like staying connected to myself
Hmm.
and allowing my intuition to lead me.
Hmm.
Because a lot of the things that I needed clarity about were the things that I was struggling with, I was resisting, I was fighting with, when I really didn't need to this entire time, because the whole time the answers were always within me. And the cacao showed me that. And just by sitting, I remember I was sitting on this same couch, like a week after the ceremony, and all the answers were just there. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, how did I know? How did I not know? But then I recognized that I knew the entire time, right? But there was just this cloud and this shadow, and I just couldn't see through it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, it taught me so much.
Wow.
So it's really good of you saying that, but that sometimes the answers might not come in that particular session of working with the plant, but the plant continues to work with you even after the fact. It stays with you. The spirit of the plant does stay with you, and it continues to work with you even after the ceremony. So it's very, very good that you mentioned that.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing your story and your specific example with cacao. It's really nice to hear your own experience too, because definitely talking about these plant medicines can also feel like a vulnerable. We're talking about a lot of, unique topics
I
today, and
know.
it's
We did
nice, I
it a
think.
lot on the podcast. We did it a lot on the
Yeah, I
podcast. You
figured. I
have
figured.
no idea. There will be more. Just wait. Yeah, there will be future episodes. Like, sometimes I remember when I first started a podcast, and I know a lot of the things that I talk about, a lot of people around me don't talk about. And I'm just like,
Mm.
people might look at me like, this girl is not okay. And I'm just like, I don't care. I enjoy talking about this, and I will. I shall. Yeah, you can't shut me up. It's gonna
Beauty,
be
beauty is.
it's gonna be spoken about. Whether you agree or not, whatever you think about it or not.
Mm.
Yeah, on the podcast we talk about a lot of things that um are out there, right?
Mm.
That some people may consider like it's a bit woo, so yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do I do me, you do you. What can you say?
Well, it's good. It's good not to hide
Yeah,
much, because um the thing about the things that people don't want to talk about, or that maybe aren't the norm to talk about, is that it's not like they're not happening, or that
exactly.
like the menstruation, or even plant medicine, or
Yeah,
like cacao is probably in most grocery stores now.
exactly.
Turmeric,
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah,
um Tobacco can be found everywhere. um
exactly,
so
exactly.
we
It's just the
either talk about
intention.
it, or yeah.
Yeah, it's just the intention and perception. And I've had people share like very vulnerable stories as well,
Hmm.
and like, I mean, that's what it's all about. Like, we're having a genuine, authentic connection, and we're sharing something heart to heart. And, maybe if we had more conversations like this, maybe the world will look a little bit differently.
Different.
You know what I mean? Or a lot different,
Hmm.
right? And that's why podcasts like this are really important, so that we can have these conversations, because this is life. This is real life, right? Whether you want to talk about
Yeah.
it or not, it's happening. Yeah.
True,
So,
true.
yeah. But thank you so much. Like, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I just wanted to dial it back to one thing about the cancer that you went through. I know you mentioned your childhood trauma. You don't have to get into it. Um, but I wanted you to talk about when you recognized where your cancer come from and how that manifested physically for you,
Hmm.
because we spoke about um the energy. We
Hmm.
spoke about the last time we spoke about stuck energy in the body, the stagnant energy, or
Hmm.
things that were like, I guess, things that you said that you forgot, right? Or the
Hmm.
things that we might even disassociate from, and
Hmm.
stuff like that. So I want you to talk a bit about how you recognize why the cancer manifested for you, and then kind of like how you began to work through that and begin to move some of that energy out.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking this question, and for trusting, like, also my experience with how I saw it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, one thing that's interesting that I will say first is cancer, and the type of cancer, and like the stage that I had, it was like quite strong. Of a, it's a quite strong diagnosis,
Yeah.
and I hope that by me sharing about my experience with healing this, I can really, if anybody listening is having anything with their body, but especially the people that are having something really strong, like um, maybe like a cancer that for themselves, or something else, like a big diagnosis that in society sometimes is viewed as like, oh my god, like, are you gonna die, like
Yeah.
something like this. It's hopefully, yeah, it just gives some hope and context, that and I say that because the way that I healed and work with these energies and moving these energies, it took a long time,
Mm-hmm.
in our linear time. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I was diagnosed in 2019. The cancer itself went away quickly that year, but the physicality of my body remained worse than actually before I was diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
There was no cancer, but my body was clearly in need of something, in need
Mm-hmm.
of my attention. And it did not let go and say, "Oh, cancer's done. I'm good to go. Go ahead, do whatever you want." No way. That's
Yeah.
actually what led me to working with the plant medicine, because I literally could not even go on walks. I could not go on runs. I had so many different symptoms that were I just was going nuts. Like, it was just so hard. So that's what motivated me to keep looking and keep working with it,
Yeah.
and keep asking questions and not giving up. And um, the first message that I got, so it came like in steps and waves, and I do believe like the universe gave me what I could handle at the time.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, the universe did not tell me, "Oh, Pooja, you have 30 years of repressed, 29 years of repressed memories. Here they are.
Yeah.
Good luck."
Yeah. Oh my
It
God.
did not work like that at all. It was first things first. They said, the message that I got, or the intuition I had, was, "You got to leave the program. You're not on the right path. This isn't for you right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with this path. It's just not for you. So you need to go in a different direction. You need to stop doing what you're doing." So
Mm-hmm.
I did do that. And I believe that's actually why the cancer went away, but other people might have their opinions about why it went away. But that's what I felt, is it was a path to redirection.
Yeah.
And I needed a serious redirection, because I wouldn't listen. If my body had not been like the happiest camper before that, but I wouldn't have quit. I
Yeah.
just wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I was too
Yeah.
stuck in that way of being. So it sort of needed to be something big. And I joke about that with myself, because it's like I felt like, oh, God knows me, like, need something big. Something to
Most
be
of
like,
us. Yeah.
yeah, wake up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wake up.
Yep.
So that was the first message, was, uh and then it wasn't until I was in Mexico. um well, and I'll say, I don't know if you've heard of Louise Hay, or if that's something that maybe listeners are familiar with, but
Hmm.
she's basically, or have you heard of her?
No, I haven't.
She's, I think, passed now, but she's a woman who's done a lot of work around correlating physical dis-ease with, like, a story that's in our bodies, or an energy that's in our bodies. And she has
Okay.
like just a chart, a very simple chart
Mm-hmm.
of like a whole list, like a medical dictionary. But then, instead of medical terminology, it just says like built up anger or indecision, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And at some point, I used to like live and breathe with that book, but thankfully I haven't had to use it in some years now. But I used to look into it a lot, and I'm sure I looked up cancer at one point, and it felt to me just intuitively like the cancer was a lot of built up resentment
Mm-hmm.
and anger and hatred, turned inwards. Because
Yeah.
if it was turned outwards, I would have been sort of, maybe it's both, but it really felt like it was stuck. Like, it wasn't turned outwards because there was no expression of it. It
Yeah.
was like just sitting in there and about to explode, like,
Yeah.
inwardly.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it says in Louise Hay's book. It's called Heal the Body or something. I don't know what it is cancer on there. But there was another one that was acne that I used to look up a lot, because I had really, really bad acne since I was probably around 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it never went away in adulthood, and it was really, really like cystic acne.
Mm.
And I would pray about this, because it was really hard, and it made me feel really like left out, as in the
Yeah, it's
sense
hard.
of, yeah, like I felt like I was eating all the right things and taking care of my body, and yet it just kept showing up. No, nothing that I did worked over these 20 years.
Yeah.
And in her book, I remember seeing it's like dislike of self, hiding from the world. Like, a part of you, it's
Mm.
like you're sort of putting on this mask almost, because you
Yeah.
don't want to show your true face.
Oh.
And a lot of these
Wow.
body images are also very like metaphorical. Like if you have a problem in your foot, it's because you're afraid of moving forward. It's all connected. Like it's not so hard to decode it once you start getting in the habit of doing it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's those two things, the anger and the resentment, and then this like hiding was so interesting because I didn't feel like I was hiding anything, because
Yeah.
I felt like I'm a pretty transparent person. Like I'm not like I didn't think I was consciously doing anything
Yeah.
like wrong, or I know it's like sounds bad doing something wrong, but that's what I felt. I felt like there's something that I'm doing like wrong, or I'm not getting
Yeah.
something. So then it wasn't until I had all these seeds planted. Like I had read this book, I had thought about it, but I didn't know what it was. And then I went to Mexico, and it was a couple days after a plant ceremony that it was my birthday, and I had
Mhm.
gotten the message, don't plant anything. A big gift is like coming your way. And the energy I felt around my birthday was like very like calm,
Mhm.
very quiet, and very solitary. Like
Mhm.
you're not going to be out like partying. And I mean, I didn't really have anyone to do that with, or it's not normally how I would celebrate, but still, it was an
Mhm.
interesting sort of clear energy. It was like keep the day open for yourself.
Yeah.
And I woke up on my birthday, and that's when the first memory came back to me in my dreams.
Yeah.
And that was the gift. And I woke up, and the memory was of me being sexually abused by my pediatrician from like from birth to like, I assume it was birth. I mean, my first memory of it is like 4, but from 0 till I left 17.
Mhm.
And what I had experienced was something I thought was completely normal until I got the memory back, and then I literally looked up on Google, like, what is a pediatrician supposed to check during a routine exam?
Mhm.
And I looked it up, and I was like, okay, that is definitely not what happened.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was devastated. I was devastated. I spent the day, I mean, from the moment I woke up, I started feeling like so much grief.
Yeah.
And I reached out to the people who had held held space for me during the ceremony, and they said this is not uncommon, but they didn't really know what to do, I think, because it's something, I don't know. There's no way you can really there's nothing to fix. It's sort of
No,
just
no.
like they're there for support, and
Yeah.
also encouraged me to reach out to anybody else that I wanted to for support. So I just reached out to some friends that I knew had experiences with being sexually abused as a children. And I couldn't believe that I was the one reaching out about it, because up until this point in my life, literally like so many people, I cannot tell you how many people had come to me with their memories after they remembered their own sexual abuse experiences, or they had remembered throughout the whole time,
Yeah.
and they had never told anybody. They just
Yeah.
told I was the first person they told. That happened to me many times throughout my life, way before I had my memories back.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the first big sign to me that something, like, I'm releasing, the energy is starting to move. This energy is
Yeah.
starting to move. This weight is starting to be lifted, and the anger and the resentment is starting to be validated and seen for what it
Yeah.
is, which is a very rational reaction to something very violent.
Yeah.
And that was just the first memory. After that, over the next 4 or 5 years, I got hundreds of memories back. Um, them essentially getting more and more closer to home. The ones that were the hardest to see were the ones that came last. And it was just this process, this very long, grueling process. But that's if I only look at that thread in my life, right? That part was
Yeah.
really long, hard, and grueling. But along that time,
Yeah.
I met my husband, I met my dog. We lived in a couple different countries. We spent so much time learning in the forest. We traveled, we had
Yeah.
so many magical moments. So it wasn't like this was my life, although this was a part of my life that was
Yeah.
so heavy and really required so much of my emotional energy, and was not really something I could share with too many people,
Yeah.
especially as it got progressively more intense. Which is, I think, why I had the blessing to be able to go and sit in the forest and go through these ceremonies, because I think a part of me knew and a part of the world knew, you're going to need this strength. You're going to need this strength when you have to, you know, what's the latest thing I did is report my parents and other family members who's actually abused me and trafficked me to the authorities, which I did
Mm-hmm.
that this past week.
That's
Um,
amazing.
so yeah, it's like part of, you know, I told you how the ceremonies, like in Alice in Wonderland, prepared me to sing my song. I think
Mm.
part of that is learning our truth, learning what we're really made of, and learning what we've really gone through, and seeing the truth in the situations. Sometimes it's even beyond our lifetime. Sometimes it might
Yeah.
be seeing the truth of our family's lineage or their experiences generations back. And it's painful, and it's also seeing the
Yeah.
reality of the truth of the times we live in, and the things that are going on now that are all connected to what I see that I experienced, the violence I experienced,
Yeah.
and these energies I'm learning to heal and grieve are not that different than what the earth has experienced,
Mm-hmm.
in the conquest, you know, and the rape of the earth,
Mm-hmm.
through colonization, or you know what's going on right now in so many different areas of the world, where there's just
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, there's so much violence. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm hoping that the work that, you know, you and I and a lot of us are doing to honor the truth of whatever's in our like scope, right? Like this is
Yeah.
what presented itself to me as something that needed to be looked at. And how did it move is just acknowledging it really and accepting it, and then crying about it, screaming about it, making art, all the things,
Yeah. All the
all the things.
things, writing,
Yeah,
everything.
writing, painting,
Yep.
dancing,
Yep.
calling friends, asking for support, all of it. Doing things like this, you know, sharing my story, um, and connecting with people who want to talk about some of these things, not maybe not, you know, we don't want to necessarily focus on the pain, but really acknowledging it and validating it, I think
Yeah.
is it's so important, because
So
a lot of people
important.
don't feel seen in their pain
Mm-hmm.
or like in their experience, you know. So yeah, thank you for listening to that and
Yes, thank you
asking about
so
it.
much. Thank you. Yeah, I completely identify because it took me a long time to recognize that what I experienced in childhood was also rape. It took me a while to even
Mm,
remember the rape, right? And this was by
mm,
a cousin of mine. So I completely completely identify with everything that you said there, and this is why it's so important that we have these conversations, because just like how you and I repressed the memory or didn't recognize the abuse for what it was, there are other people, women and men,
and
that
then
has experienced that. And maybe they have repressed memories, or maybe if they do remember, they're ashamed to speak about it. They're afraid, the stigma and everything else that is attached to that, people not believing you, people second guessing you, and then experiencing that
yes.
secondhand victimization again. Like, there's just so many levels to it. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'm so grateful for you, Pooja. This was an amazing conversation, and now let's plug yourself again.
Okay, no problem.
Tell us where we can find you, and your book and anything else that you have going on.
Okay, so the best place is to just go to my website, and you'll see there if you want to book a free consult with me. You can totally do that. And you can also, even if you just want to connect, you want to use that time to just connect and just chat. I'm a big believer in just organic connection. So hit me up, you know, don't be afraid to take up a spot on my calendar. It's really an honor for me always to learn more about you and connect with you. And yeah, you'll see my book on there, and there's even a little recording, like audio I made of one of my favorite poems you could listen to if you want.
That's so nice. I love it.
So that's really, yeah, I think that's it. And there's a contact, I think on the contact me page, like there's an email. So sometimes people like they don't want to sign up for something, but they want to write me. So you can use that too. I'd love to hear from you.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much. This was
Yay.
fun.
Yeah, thank you. It was a blast, and yeah, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed by this work you're doing, and really inspired too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.